I survived a car accident that should have killed me. My body was broken, my arms still shaking from the impact, and all I asked for was help with my 6-week-old baby. My parents didn't even look at her. "We don't have time to waste on burdens," my mother said, flatly, like she was declining a delivery. Behind her, my sister laughed. Not awkwardly. Not nervously. She laughed like I didn't belong to this family. Like I was a stranger asking for charity. I didn't argue. I didn't scream. I just stood there, holding my baby, while tears slid down my face in silence. 6 hours later, after I had hired a nanny with the last of my strength, Grandpa walked in, and everything my family thought they controlled began to collapse. I don't remember the sound of metal folding into metal. People always expect that part of the story first. The screech, the impact, the glass exploding like fireworks. They want something dramatic enough to justify what came after. But trauma doesn't arrive with a soundtrack. What I remember is the stillness. A thick, padded silence that pressed down on my ears and made me wonder if the world had ended without me noticing. When I opened my eyes, the ceiling above me was white. Too white. The kind of white that smells like disinfectant and tells you, before anyone speaks, that something has gone terribly wrong. I tried to move. Pain answered before my body did. It tore through my lower back and left leg in a way that made my breath stutter. I gasped, instinctively curling inward, and that was when panic hit me harder than the pain. My arms were empty. My heart slammed against my ribs as if it had realized the truth a second before my mind did. "No," I whispered. The word came out dry, cracked. I twisted my head to the side, searching the room with frantic eyes. Tubes. Machines. A curtain half drawn. No bassinet. No blanket. No tiny body curled against mine the way she had been every night for 6 weeks. "Where is my baby?" I said. My voice was louder this time, sharp enough that a nurse appeared almost instantly at my bedside. "Clara, you're awake," she said gently, placing a hand on my arm as if to anchor me. "Your daughter is safe. She's 6 weeks old, correct?" I nodded, tears already burning behind my eyes. "She's in the nursery. You were unconscious when you arrived. The accident." "I need her," I said. The nurse hesitated. It was barely noticeable. A flicker. But I saw it. "Do you have family who can help right now?" she asked. That was when I asked them to call my parents. The waiting was worse than the pain. Minutes stretched and folded in on themselves, broken only by the steady beeping of the monitor beside me. Every sound felt amplified. Every second felt stolen. I stared at the door, willing it to open. My parents lived 20 minutes away. They didn't arrive for 3 hours. By the time they walked in, the daylight outside my window had shifted, shadows stretching longer across the floor like they were preparing to leave too. My mother entered first. She didn't rush. She didn't look panicked. Her heels clicked against the tile with the same measured rhythm she used when she walked into meetings or church. Controlled, composed, already irritated by the inconvenience of being needed. My father followed, quieter, his shoulders slightly hunched. He looked older than I remembered. Or maybe I just noticed it now. They both stopped a few feet from my bed. My mother's eyes scanned the room before they landed on me. The machines. The wires. My immobilized leg. Then my face. "You're awake," she said. Not "thank God." Not "we were so scared." Just a statement. My father cleared his throat. "The doctor said you're stable." I nodded slowly. Swallowing hurt. "I need help," I said. The words felt small. Almost embarrassing. "With the baby." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then my mother sighed. It wasn't a shocked sigh. Or a worried one. It was the sigh she used when I disappointed her. When I asked for too much. When I complicated her plans. "Clara," she said, lowering her voice, smoothing it into something that sounded reasonable. "We don't have time to waste on burdens. The word echoed in my head. Burdens. I stared at her, certain I'd misunderstood. She's 6 weeks old, I said. I was just in a car accident. I can't even stand. I can't. We raised our children already, she interrupted. This isn't our responsibility. My father shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. That was when I noticed my sister. She stood near the door, leaning against the wall, phone in hand. She hadn't said a word since entering. When my eyes met hers, her lips curled upward. She laughed. It wasn't loud. It wasn't cruel in the obvious way. It was worse. It was casual. Like my pain was a story she'd already heard and gotten bored of. I didn't say anything. I felt tears slide down the sides of my face, soaking into the pillow beneath my head. I didn't wipe them away. I didn't apologize. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, while my mother explained, calmly, efficiently, why my crisis didn't fit into their schedule. They stayed less than 20 minutes. My mother kissed my forehead stiffly. My father told me to focus on healing. My sister waved on her way out. The door closed behind them with a soft click. And the silence returned. 6 hours. That's how long I lay there afterward. 6 hours of staring at the same crack in the ceiling tile. 6 hours of watching the light outside fade from afternoon to early evening. 6 hours of realizing that the people who taught me the word family had redefined it without me. I made the calls myself. My hands shook as I scrolled through my phone, apologizing to strangers for crying before they even answered. Explaining the situation in fragments. I was in an accident. My baby is 6 weeks old. I just need someone tonight. When the nanny finally arrived, she spoke softly, like she was afraid to break me. She held my daughter with practiced ease, adjusting the blanket, murmuring to her the way mothers do. I watched from the bed, my chest tight. Strangers shouldn't be the ones who show up first. Exactly 6 hours after my parents left, the door opened again. This time, there was no hesitation. My grandfather walked in. He stopped when he saw me. Really saw me. Then his gaze moved to the empty bassinet. His jaw tightened. "Where is my great-granddaughter?" he asked. I opened my mouth to answer. And for the first time since the accident, my voice broke. The fluorescent lights hummed in my hospital room, a soft, constant reminder that the world outside my pain continued without me. My arm throbbed in the cast, each shallow breath stabbing my ribs, and yet the sharpest ache wasn't physical. It was knowing my baby, 6 weeks old, was alone in the NICU because my own mother had chosen slot machines over her granddaughter. 3 hours had passed. I had cried until my cheeks were raw. I had begged no one, offered no explanation, and yet the silence around me screamed louder than any words could. My chest tightened with every imagined excuse my mother might have. The casino lights, the cocktail glass in her hand, the laughter of her friends echoing across the room while I nearly died. Then the door opened. Grandpa Harold. Tall, stern, hair like steel wool, eyes sharper than ever. His steps were careful but deliberate, and when he looked at me, it felt as if he could see straight into the ache I'd carried for decades. "Clara," he said softly. "My girl, are you alive?" I nodded, too exhausted to speak. He scanned the room, saw the cast, the hospital gown, the chaos of my nerves etched into every line on my face. Then he knelt by my bed, his hand covering mine. "Sit still," he said. "I've seen enough emergencies in my life. But tonight, I want to see more than the broken body. I want to see the truth behind the family that raised you." The words were quiet, but the weight behind them made my heart skip. Grandpa, they didn't come. Not Mom. Not Dad. My baby, I choked. She was alone. He nodded slowly, absorbing everything. "I know." I froze. You knew." His jaw tightened. "I always notice. But I let it happen, hoping you'd find your own strength. That you'd see things as they truly are." Something in me burned. Why now? He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a thick folder, worn at the edges, the kind that carried secrets. Because tonight proves everything. And because you've already been giving for 9 years. Without thanks, without acknowledgement. My fingers trembled as he handed me the folder. Bank statements, legal papers, contracts, documents I barely recognized. What is all this? I've been watching quietly, he said. The monthly transfers. $4,500 every month. 9 years. Almost $500,000. I felt my stomach lurch. I thought I was helping them. He leaned back, eyes scanning mine. Yes, you were helping. But helping doesn't always mean giving blindly. You were building their comfort at the cost of your life, your baby, your future. And his lips tightened. They used it against you. I swallowed hard. Used it? Against me? Yes. He tapped a legal document. This is the family estate. The house, the land, the assets your parents promised would be yours one day. All quietly restructured to favor your sister. You gave them money to survive, and they gave her privileges instead of responsibility. And tonight, your absence at the casino didn't go unnoticed. They calculated, Clara, every moment, every emergency, every dollar you sent. The blood drained from my face. I had suspected, but hearing it, seeing it, real, tangible, made my chest constrict. They thought your generosity was weakness. That your silence meant you could be manipulated forever. But that's over. The door clicked. Mom and Dad had returned. They stood at the threshold, expressions rehearsed, faces pale with concern, or perhaps something more calculated. Mom's eyes flicked immediately to the folder in Grandpa's hands, and for the first time, I saw uncertainty there. The cracks in her armor. Harold, Mom said cautiously. We heard. Sit down, Linda, Grandpa said, his voice calm, lethal in its precision. We're not negotiating concern. We're discussing facts. Dad shifted uneasily. His eyes darted between us. Clara, are you okay? I'm alive, I said. My voice was steadier than I expected. But I need answers. Not excuses. Grandpa gestured to the folder. This is every transaction you've made to them. Every transfer. Every penny that was never acknowledged, never appreciated, never considered. Just taken. Mom's lips quivered. We needed it. Needed it. Grandpa's voice cut like glass. You took her money for your lifestyle. 4 spa days. 4 casino trips. For a house your daughter could have had. And you told everyone she was selfish. That she never helped. That she didn't care. Dad swallowed. I didn't know how to. You didn't do your job, Grandpa said sharply. You didn't protect your daughter. You didn't speak up. You stood by while manipulation destroyed her life piece by piece. I felt something shift inside me. The anger was there, yes, but also clarity. The years of guilt, of wondering if I was wrong, of believing I needed to beg for love, they began to unravel. Mom's voice cracked. Clara, please I cut her off. Stop. Don't say another word. For 9 years, I gave you everything I could. For 9 years, I believed in you. And tonight, I see you for who you are. Grandpa's gaze softened, resting on me. She's ready, he said. Clara, you decide. But you have the facts now. I exhaled, slow and deliberate. For the first time, I felt the weight lift. Mom faltered. Dad looked stricken. They had arrived too late, and I wasn't the frightened, pleading daughter anymore. I was someone who had survived a car crash, who had protected her baby, and who now had proof of the lies that had governed my life. And for the first time, I realized I didn't need their approval to protect myself or my child. The living room at Grandpa's house was filled with tension. Papers lay on the table, legal documents carefully arranged. The lawyer, a quiet, stern woman, sat to one side, watching everyone. Mom and Dad flanked each other, fragile together. Sister Megan lingered at the back, fidgeting, still unaware that the night's events had sealed her position. Grandpa Harold stood in the center, folder in hand. "We're here to settle the estate and clarify the facts of 9 years of financial manipulation," he said. His voice carried the authority of decades on the bench. Mom tried to interrupt. "Harold, we can explain." "You can explain nothing," Grandpa said, cutting her off. "Clara's money was used to subsidize a life she didn't live, to build comfort for those who denigrated her. That stops today." Dad's eyes filled with shame. "Clara, You failed me," I said, finally speaking. My voice was calm, but the room trembled under its weight. "You refused to help me when I was injured. You ignored my baby. You lied about me for years. And you took my money, my future, and my security. This ends now." Grandpa gestured to the lawyer. She opened a folder of documents. Deeds, bank transfers, property agreements, all meticulously detailed. "The estate will be restructured," she said. 70% to Clara, held in trust for Emma. 20% to Robert, for his cooperation and acknowledgement of mistakes. 10% to Linda and Megan, only after 6 months of counseling with documented progress, verified by a licensed professional. "No exceptions." Mom gasped. "You can't do this." "You already did," Grandpa said softly. "You created this situation. The law and the truth are just catching up." Megan's smug grin faltered. "Wait, what?" "You'll get your share only if you prove responsibility," I said. "Not before. And any attempt to manipulate or bypass this is null." Mom's face twisted, a mix of rage and disbelief. "Clara, please, we're family." "Yes," I said. "And family doesn't abandon, manipulate, or exploit. You had 9 years to show you deserved my trust. You failed." The room was silent. Even Megan's whispers died under the weight of Grandpa's stare. Dad exhaled slowly, finally facing the truth of his silence. "I'm sorry, Clara," he said, voice small. "I heard you," I said. "But apologies don't fix a stolen childhood, a nearly lost baby, or years of manipulation. Actions do." Grandpa placed a hand on my shoulder. "She's right. Clara, you've protected herself and your child. You've finally drawn the line." Mom's shoulders slumped. Megan's lips pressed into a tight line. Neither said another word. The lawyer finalized the paperwork. Signatures went down. Emma's future was secured. My independence was sealed. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Freedom. Grandpa smiled. Quietly. "Your courage finally forced their hands. You did the right thing." I looked at Emma, sleeping in my arms, and whispered, "This is your life now. No one can take you for granted. Not ever." The final reckoning wasn't loud, it wasn't explosive. It was methodical, deliberate, and permanent. The people who had exploited me were still alive, still present, but powerless. And for the first time I could breathe. The past 9 years could not be erased, but the future, my future, Emma's future, was mine. And nothing would touch it again. Moral lessons. This story reminds us that generosity and love should never be mistaken for weakness, and that blind trust can be exploited even by those closest to us. True family is not measured by blood alone, but by accountability, respect, and care. Emotional abandonment and manipulation leave deep scars, and it's never wrong to set boundaries to protect yourself and your child. Always document, protect, and stand firm for your rights. Money, property, and well-being matter, but so does your dignity. Courage isn't just surviving hardship. It's reclaiming your life and ensuring that those who exploit your kindness can no longer harm you. And finally, the story teaches that sometimes, the most powerful revenge is not anger, but justice served with wisdom, patience, and self-respect.